Welcome back to the 2023 verdict. As you've seen there, Major General Obi Umahi joins us. He's a former GOC 81 Division Chairman, Southeast Security Committee. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, the news that came through about the court decision to dissolve the Ebubeagu security outfit, of which the Southeast had tried to set it up and ensure that they fill in the gap. How did that come to you when you heard that story?
Good morning. Good morning. I didn't hear the.
Okay, but can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. All right, so the story about the court decision to dissolve Ebubeagu, it came with mixed feelings for a lot of people who had several impressions about it. What was your impression when you heard it?
Well, I think it speaks of a society that is deeply disjointed, where the judiciary is not feeling the executive, the executive is not feeling the legislature. It's like we don't have a system. And that's the only way I can describe that court judgment.
But what did you expect, for instance, the court to have taken on board in light of this now?
The board could have taken on board the security situation in Nigeria, knowing that the governor can use such means as vigilante, Ebubeagu, and all such facilities to help secure his state. And that is what is happening in most places in the north. It's also happening in the southwest. So I do not know why that of southeast should be different.
Would you say that there were sufficient safeguards put in place? Because as we know, our laws do not support the creation of state police, and it would seem that Ebubeagu was perceived as going against the law, or is perceived as some form of state police, which could be in contravention of the Constitution.
Well, I think there has been a call for governors to secure their states. We can't be speaking from both sides of the mouth. If there is a call on the governors to secure the citizenry, to secure lives and property, I think that cannot by any means against any constitution.
Well, you do know that the governors, I mean, whenever it is that they're sworn in, they swear to uphold the Constitution. And we all know, I mean, it's something that we all know, that there is no provision for state police as we speak. It was one of the loopholes that was used against the creation of Amotekun. And we saw how the Southwest governors rallied round to try and make sure that, whatever loopholes that were there, they tried to close it with regards to the creation of Amotekun. That's why I'm asking if there were any safeguards put in place, because if anyone challenged it in a court of law, some people would say that it would have fallen flat on its face. Were you prepared for this legal loophole that could be exploited? Even though you have a noble idea, it still has to be done within the realm of law, doesn't it?
Well, thank you very much. But it is the same constitution that calls the state governors chief security officers of their states. And the state assembly also passed a bill which was signed into law by the various governors concerning these security outfits.
What do you think the implication of this will be in the region?
I guess, you see, the truth is, number one, I empathize with the federal government. The hands are full. There are security challenges all over the country. Okay, so, and what it leaves the federal government with is to allow state police to come into force. And in the absence of state police, all these security outfits in the various states should be allowed and empowered to work effectively. Okay, so I think the only way forward for this country as far as security is concerned is to quickly put in place state police. In the absence of state police, let these vigilantes, let these various regional security outfits be empowered lawfully, legally to operate, and be given the opportunity or the powers to be armed, to be trained very effectively for them to function to help stabilize the security of this nation.
But at the moment now, assuming this were to follow through this disbandment, several persons who were in this outfit have some form of training or the other. How do you see them integrating into the society if this subsists?
Well, we are creating a monster. That's the way I see it. Like you pointed out, there is a lacuna, constitutionally speaking. There is no state police allowed, yes, that is true. But the Constitution has empowered the governors as chief security officers of their various states without giving them the wherewithal to play that role. So there is a lacuna constitutionally, and on ground there is a lacuna. So the federal government should stop holding tight to the issue of being in charge of instruments of violence. That is why they are holding on to police, holding on to the armed forces. The armed forces, rightly so. But police, no, that is not acceptable in any way. He who feels it knows it. Only the state governors who know how it pains them in the issue of security can put in place police that fits their environment, that they can control and use effectively to secure lives and property. That, I think, is what will work for this nation. And that will help the president, commander-in-chief, to effectively be in charge of giving peace and security to the entire nation through help using the police and then also doing it directly.
Well, I'm wondering, because part of the complaints that were against Ebubeagu, I mean, and the fears that people had about the creation of state police, it seems that it's a manifest with the creation of Ebubeagu. There were human rights abuses reported, particularly in Ebonyi State. There were reports that Ebubeagu was used as an instrument to terrorize or to intimidate political opponents. And it would seem that this is how come Ebubeagu has been dissolved. From your own experience, were there sufficient internal safeguards to prevent against human rights abuses that Ebubeagu was reported to have engaged in while it existed?
Let me correct an impression. I was the chairman of Southeast Security Committee. I am no longer in charge. But I can hold brief for the governors to some extent. The truth is that even the federal police is also used as instruments of intimidation, oppression. So that cannot be a reason why police cannot be created at the state level, because police is used for all those evil or ill purposes, even as a federal institution. So if police is created at the state level, perhaps it may do more or less than what is being done with federal police. So that cannot be an excuse. So operation is operation, whether it's coming from the federal government or it's coming from the state. Not that I agree that it should be. But what I think can be done, you see, the problem with the Nigerian police is lack of training. If they train well, and they know the rules of law, they will understand that the civilians are the lords. They are the people they have sworn to protect. They are rather the boss and not themselves. So if the state police is allowed to come in place, to come on stream, it depends on the training the governments give, the state governments give them. It depends on the hierarchy, the framework, the command and control that is built into the system. That is exactly what their output will reflect.
So what would you, as we wind down on this one now, what would you advise the state governors to do? Because there will be people in the area who will say, well, following this court judgment, no such person under the guise of Ebubeagu can do anything to us. So if anyone comes trying to do anything, we know that that is not right. So there might be confusion or anarchy or people taking laws into their hands. So now the governors have got to do something about some of these things. As being in your position, what would you advise them to do concerning this current situation now?
I think that institution, I'm not holding brief for the Southeast state governors, I say that again, but that institution has its own positive side. If you ask the police will tell you that Ebubeagu has been of great help to them. And that is why community policing is important. As far as I'm concerned, Ebubeagu is bridging the gap that exists in terms of community policing, because the Ebubeagu, those in Ebubeagu, they belong to communities. They know the situation in communities. They know the bad guys in their various communities. So they give information to the police concerning these people. They make arrests of such people and hand over to the police. So I think when some disgruntled, the Nigerian opposition is always disgruntled at all times. They're always disgruntled. Even when nothing ill has happened to them, they will raise a shout to draw sympathy, to draw attention to themselves. Oh, to give the impression they are working hard is just that the state government institutions is oppressing them and all of that. All those are gimmicks of politicians. And we must build this nation beyond all these sentiments, all these emotions, all these kind of gimmicks. I think for me, if I am to advise the governors, I would say, number one, you have to go to court to discharge this judgment. Number two, you have to do everything possible to give proper training to this Ebubeagu, and don't use the dregs of the society to form part of this Ebubeagu. Use those who have at least, a certain level of education, and then let there be effective command and control in Ebubeagu, so that there must be some people at the various points of the hierarchy that will bring discipline, control into the behaviors of the personnel of Ebubeagu. That's what I can advise the governors to do.
All right, then we know you do have a tight schedule. We have to thank you for coming on. Major General Obi Umahi, former chairman, Southeast Security Committee. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.